Thank you. Good morning. Happy New Year. Today is Wednesday, January 6th, 2021. And this is the meeting of the Engrossment Rules, Resolution, and Credentials Committee meeting. It is called to order. And Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderwoman Green.
Present.
Alderman Todd.
Present.
Alderwoman Evans.
Present.
Alderwoman Grass.
Present.
Chairwoman Tyus.
Present.
6 present. You have quorum.
Okay. We don't have to excuse any alder people because everyone's here. We're going to approve the minutes, and then, as I said, we're going to go a little out of order. I'd ask Dale Rousat to be here to speak to us about Board Bill 164. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, December 9th, 2020.
Second.
I'll make the motion. We approve the minutes.
Nope. I'm out of order.
Oh, did you, Madam Clerk, did you hear Alderman Vaccaro?
Alderman Vaccaro made the motion.
Make the motion. Okay.
Second.
Alderwoman Evans.
Second.
Alderwoman Evans, second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderwoman Green.
Aye.
Alderman Todd.
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans.
Aye.
Alderwoman Grass.
Aye.
Chairwoman Tyus.
Aye.
6 aye votes.
Okay, by your vote, you've approved the minutes of Wednesday, December 9th, 2020. Next thing is board bills for enrollment. We're going to skip 136 and 159 and go to 164. I got hold of Mr. Rousat at the last minute because I was going over this. Board bill was reading them, and I really had some questions about talking about, because the board bill says that Board Bill 164 is the sponsor is Alderman Joseph Rhodey. And it says this board bill determines that the tax increment financing plans listed in Exhibit A that were established 5, 10, 15, or 20 years ago are making satisfactory progress, except as noted, as required by Section 99.865.3 revised Missouri statute. And when you look at the back page of it, almost none of them are making satisfactory progress. They're all in red, with only few of them doing what they're supposed to do. So with some concern about that, as you know, we had a resolution that passed on the floor about not closing our public schools. I did get a reply back from the superintendent of schools and I spoke with several of the board members who expressed a concern and basically said that the Board of Aldermen passes a lot of TIFs and tax abatement. And so who were we to say anything about the schools closing because we were part of the problem? I don't disagree. That's my position I've been taking for years. So, and in fact, Dale Rousat knows this, is that I pushed back on my own. I did not take tax. I didn't do a TIF for the Snooks and fought back for 3 years about not doing it. So I have some pretty strong ideas about how I don't like it, and I don't like taking money from school systems. But since we had this before us, I think he does have some better explanation than maybe I did about what's going on with these things. And I would ask him if he would just give us an overview of what's going on with them. Mr. Rousat, thank you for coming to our committee. You have to
I'm unmuted, so hopefully I'm okay now. Good, thank you. This is a bill that we do each year in compliance with the state statute related to TIFs. And it requires that we look at all the TIF projects that are celebrating a 5-year anniversary, and they're all listed here in our case. Of course, in most cities, it might just be 1 or 2, but we've done a lot of them, and almost all of them are specific to one parcel of land. Though in many cities, there's whole districts that are TIF projects. The question was raised, why are there are a lot of these, and it happened to be in this particular group, that are not making their TIF payments, and it looks as if they're not going to, as you know, TIFs last 23 years, and at the end of that 23-year period, whatever notes are out are simply canceled. So if a developer or his bank, at the end of that 23-year period, the notes haven't been paid off, they're the ones that are holding the bag on that, because the city does not back any of these TIF projects. The good faith of the city is not backing any of these projects. Unlike most cities in Missouri, particularly Kansas City, but others as well, back their TIF projects. So at the end of the 23 years, if the TIF is not paid off, then the city is left holding the bag, or at least part of the bag. But in St. Louis, that's not the case. The comptroller, after the first TIF was approved 30 years ago, said that's the last time we're going to back any of the TIF projects. And there have been one or two exceptions, but generally speaking, and certainly all of these are in that case, the city does not back the TIF, and therefore, if there's some red marks and it doesn't look like the TIF's going to pay off, and there are several of them in this category, it's the developer that is left holding the bag, not the city. And I will mention that a number of the reasons why that's the case is back 15, 20 years ago, we did a number of TIFs that were almost exclusively residential. And they anticipated that the rental rate on those residential projects would improve each year through the years. And in fact, that didn't happen. In 2008, particularly, a lot of them went back rather than forward. And as a result, they're not making their TIF payment. The interest is being paid, but the principal is not being paid on the project. So therefore, we wind up with red ink on a number of these in this particular report. So that's sort of my explanation as to why it's there. I'm not too concerned about it, because the city is not going to be left at the end of 23 years owing anybody anything. And that, of course, these go after 23 years on the normal tax rolls.
Okay. And what about the school board and the schools?
Well, the school board continues getting paid all its the taxes owed to it. So you might remember that TIF captures two things. It captures the property taxes, and it captures the earnings taxes to the extent there are earnings taxes involved. The projects that were primarily or all residential have no earnings taxes or sales taxes involved. So there isn't anything there. But in the projects that do have sales tax and earnings tax, half of those taxes are being paid to the school board and the city, et cetera, et cetera. And then at the end of the 23 years, of course, all of it goes to the city and the school board. So to the extent the school board was owed anything out of those each, they're getting paid.
But they're getting half for the length of the, did you say half for the length of the project and then all when it's done?
Yes.
So
exactly.
during that time when they're getting half, aren't we then, they're still missing some of their money, isn't that correct?
Well, they're
That they
missing
would
the
be
other
getting
half that they were not owed under the TIF program, correct?
Right. Okay. So if it's a 30-year, well, not 30 years, not 30 years. If it was, and what's the shortest that a TIF? Yeah. Are all TIFs 23 years?
They are, yes. But
Okay.
I mean, some of them pay off early, but yes, the maximum is 23 years.
So if a TIF goes out to the 23 years, so that means 23 years, the school board would just be getting half of what they would have gotten if there was no TIF and the project was completed.
Well,
is that correct?
I would phrase that differently, because
I know you would.
the TIF, without the TIF, the project wasn't supposed to happen. So
that what if
anything. Even during that 23 years, they would have gotten nothing because the project.
You're talking about that but-for that's supposed to meet that requirement, that it's a funny but-for test? Now, you wouldn't like me to bring out all those things where we've done TIFs where I know they could have happened. In fact, let me see. Snooks, the one where I put my political career on the line for. And everybody said for 3 years, it won't happen if they don't get TIF. So we do know that's not necessarily true, don't we?
Oh,
And I won't make you answer that.
I agree with you on that one.
Okay, so I know you say it, but let's just say it was going to get done anyway, like the Snooks deal. Okay, so, but if they had got those 23 years of TIF, then the school board would have only gotten half of the money, right?
That's correct.
And then when it was over, which we built that in '97, right after the mayor who said it wouldn't get built left office. So we would have been 97. We'd have had the 23 years right now, and the school board would just be getting their full taxes back. Is that right?
That sounds right.
Okay. So so that's the reason that people want to do TIFs, even though the city doesn't back it. So since the developers have to back up and put, the people who invest in have to have their own money in it, what else helps them so that they want to do these projects anyway, since Kansas City and other cities back it up and take the fall if the TIF doesn't work?
I don't know. They're getting interest on that TIF money, and maybe perhaps they're happy with that and they never get the principal. And I don't know how they work their financing program together, but and hopefully the more recent ones are not going to be in this situation. But particularly, I think the 2008, when all the particularly rental projects went south and no one was doing any more condominium projects, I think that was the biggest hit for most of these projects.
So I'm seeing here like Ballpark Lofts are in here, and they're in the red. And is this the first set of Ballpark Village things that we did? It's like
they were the historic buildings that were part of Couple Station.
Okay. And so, but that's mixed use. Is that all residential?
No, it isn't, but you're right. Well, remember one building though collapsed and eventually got torn down. So 1/3 of what they expected was automatically emptied by the result of that. And so I think that's what really hit that one. Okay.
Okay. Does anyone have questions? Alderwoman Green is the vice chair. You have any questions of Mr. Roussac? We're going to go in order.
Yeah, I do have just a couple. I mean, so I've been at the board for 6 years now. I've had a lot of consternation over a number of these projects, as you know. And I guess my question is, for almost the entire time that I've been down here, we keep being told there's going to be incentive reform. There's going to be incentive reform. It never seems to happen. And, you know, even the abatement map that we did a couple years ago, we passed through resolution. A, isn't always followed, and B, is quite frankly out of date now. And so I guess my questions would be, what is the process for updating that abatement map for projects that are less than $1 million? And then what is the status of any kind of plan that is similar to that abatement map for projects that are over $1 million?
Well, I think we have had reform on tax abatement, no question about it. All the projects we're sending you have much less. First of all, none of them, except in the north challenged areas, have 100% tax abatement anymore, where before they did. And there are a few before you now that have 100% tax abatement for areas in the Fourth Ward and around Fairground Park, et cetera. But almost all the other projects are less than 100% tax abatement. So that's all part of the tax abatement reform. With regard to the map, we're in the process of, it's based on census material, and we're just getting that in currently. So we'll be back with you in your new session with a revised map. In fact, it's been revised now. We're going to take it to the LCRA board over the next month or two, and then we'll bring it to you once your new session begins.
And I think, well, it's great that these, projects aren't just getting 100%. There are still like areas that are qualifying that just shouldn't. Like, I don't think anything on the Hill should be qualifying for tax abatement.
Well, I don't know what the
Like,
map shows for that area, but we'll see where that lies. But in terms of projects that are over $1 million, we do the financial analysis on those. And that determines what makes sense. And again, none of those are getting, 100% tax abatement. They're getting something less than that, whatever the financial analysis determines.
But the financial analysis, and you can correct me if this has changed, does not take into account the ability of the project, the people doing the project to get financing without incentive, nor does it take into account the financial position of the company or the organization, developer, whatever it is that is seeking that tax abatement or that TIF. It's just looking at market forces. And I think that we have developers and companies that have more liquidity, cash on hand, whatever we want to call it, that can do these projects without incentive. If we actually looked at their statement of financial positions when making these determinations.
Well, I don't know the answer to that question, but my feeling would be you want to be dealing with developers that have financial capabilities and not ones that don't. I think we're much better off to be dealing with substantial developers whenever we can. We don't always have that opportunity, but when we can, I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
I agree. I mean, we need to have folks that can follow through and get a project done, but we also don't need to, over incentivize them if these projects can get done without that incentive. And I guess
all I can say is I think we're looking at projects much more carefully than we did 5 years ago, and I'm very pleased with what we're doing in terms of analyzing all these projects and delivering to them the least, what we think, the least incentive that we can and still make the project happen, because that's obviously our objective, is to make the project happen.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that the system has gotten better over my 6 years at the board. It's not quite as, rubber stamp as it was, but I do think that there's still improvements to be made. The last question I would ask is, the abatements in particular have a pretty large impact on St. Louis public schools, yet they do not have the ability to weigh in on these projects. They do have 2 seats on the TIF commission, but they're always going to be outvoted. What would be your thoughts on, asking the mayor or whoever the next mayor is to add seats to LCRA that are specifically designated for the school district?
Well, that would not be consistent with the state statute, so I don't think that could be done.
State statute just says that it is up to the mayor to appoint folk to the LCRA board. So the mayor could theoretically set aside a certain number of seats to be on LCRA.
Well, that would be up to the next mayor, I guess, if he or she would want to do that.
Is that something that you would support or SLDC would support?
We would support anyone that the mayor appoints to the LCRA board. So, I don't think we would have the ability to weigh in on that one way or another.
All right. I think that's all my questions for today. Thanks.
Okay.
Alderman Vaccaro, do you have any questions?
No, just, I'm talked the other day. I think that we should start putting all the tax abatements. We should, under the next session, say that they can't go on the perfection consent calendar, because one of the things, I don't have any, I don't do any, and yet when I say something, and I won't say which alderman, but when I say something, they say, well, you voted on them anyway too. And it's true. It's not that I intentionally vote them, they're on the consent calendar along with other stuff. I think any tax abatement should not be allowed under our rules to be put on the consent calendar. Then
I
it
agree.
should be, because I would probably tend to vote against every one. You know, we did the one for the brewery here recently, which I'm pretty sure they're broke. I mean, I know that they're, they're probably living somewhere in poverty. Oh, I guess they probably only got so many $1 billion now. They probably don't have so many billion as they had. So I understand why we needed to give them tax abatement. And I'm sure that I voted against that one. That was, but the thing is, all these little projects, I think that when it's on the consent calendar, it doesn't give us the chance to hear why. Because you always assume that people know their neighborhood, and you always assume that what they're asking makes sense for their neighborhood. So it's really why I don't question them. But we also don't get, unless you go to the meetings, we also don't get the perspective from the alderman during the meeting to say, this is what's going on, this is why I think it's important, and this is why I think it would help my neighborhood. Again, the only time I ever see it, it's on the consent calendar, and I assume, and what you haven't seen and don't see is any of that in the 23rd Ward, because the houses over here are selling for, mid twos to 500,000, and it's really, even on new construction where they've asked for a tax abatement because they did it before me, we don't do it. Our neighborhood doesn't, it doesn't that we don't deserve tax abatement, we don't need it, but that's something that I think in the next session, although that'll start a whole new argument in this meeting, because we are not going to be part of the caucus anymore. So we're not going to be able to make the rules under this new deal.
Okay, let's keep it germane.
It is germane. Oh, no, this is germane.
No, come on. We'll talk about that later.
It's germane because
Okay.
under the new rules, we're not going to be there to make the changes to our.
I promise you, we will.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
I promise you. Watch and see. I do know how the rules work.
But so I what I would say is all tax abatement and TIFs should be not on the informal calendar. Doesn't mean I'd vote against every one of them, but it sure would at least give me a good explanation as to why, and what the neighborhood around it looks like, and why the alderperson for that neighborhood feels that it's essential to helping their neighborhood. And I know that doesn't have anything to do with Dale, but it would be on my wish list, as I fade out into the future. This will be my last couple of years. I'm gonna be there to fight over the map, and then I'm gone. But I think there's a lot of things I've seen and learned, and one of the things that I think we do way too much on the consent calendar, and it shouldn't be up to somebody like Brett and Orion to pull certain things off of the consent calendar so that he could vote against them. And he doesn't even know why he was voting against them. I'm sure he just did it because he felt, well, he doesn't want to vote on tax abatement. And some of it maybe is stuff we should vote on. So anyway, I will shut up and I'm going to mute myself. I'm in Bible study at the same time here, so I'm going back and forth. But anyway, I'm just going to mute myself. That's just my thoughts.
Thank you, Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Todd, do you have any questions for Mr. Rusak?
No, I don't, Madam Chair. Thank you so much.
Okay. Alderwoman Evans, any questions for Mr. Rusak?
Yes, I have a comment. I'm new at this, And I know that in the fourth ward, in order to spur development, sometimes we need to have TIFs abatement. And my thing is it always a maximum of 23 years? Can they come in with less than 23 years for TIFs? Is that a thing?
Well, no, 23 years is what the state statute has for tax increment financing is the maximum amount of time. Obviously, if the project can pay off the debt sooner, you know, it could be done in 10 years or whatever. I think one of the record ones was like out at the Galleria where it got paid off in maybe 12 or 13 years. So definitely they can be, if the project is doing well, and it can pay off early, and then the TIF is all over, and whenever the time is that the debt is paid off.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Grass, any questions?
I do. Back to the report and the red items. There are 3 different TIFs that don't have any information or just partial information in them. Is that because we didn't get the information, or are they paid off, or what's the deal?
I'm not, be specific as to which ones you're talking about.
Grand Center, the last 2, it's not all 3 columns that are blank, just in this case, the last 2. And St. Louis Center.
Right.
Well, there's just nothing in them.
Yeah, that's the principal pay down. I think it's because we could not get that information from the comptroller's office. We didn't have it on those couple.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you. And why would that, I mean, well, that's not all. Why would that?
No,
be?
no, no,
Why wouldn't we be able to get that information? From the
I
comptroller?
cannot answer that information on Grand Center. It's probably, I really don't know. I really don't know the answer to that.
Huh. Well, isn't that interesting? Well, I guess, can't we go back and try to get it?
We can.
I think we are, yeah.
Okay. Well, then I'd like to see this again when we come back with the numbers for those 3 particular places.
Alderman, we can hold this bill and ask the comptrollers to give us our numbers, if that's what you wish.
Well, is the entire bill germane to those 3 columns not being, or those 3 individual TIFs not having numbers? Is it? And and I'm new too, so I don't know.
But you're asking good questions. You're asking great questions.
I don't know that I know enough to make that call. That's all I'm saying.
So we're here. Okay, so let me tell you what we're here for. We're here to, people want to say, we're just supposed to check the boxes. We want to make sure things are correct. We have held things before when everything is not filled out, okay? So I was going to see if anybody, you did good. So I want to know the same question. I had that down as part of my questions. I just didn't want to ask everything. I think that you have to let other people ask these questions. Why aren't they filled in? Why is it in part of this report? Because they're separate TIFs if they don't have all the information before us.
Right. Yeah. So, but we're also nearing the end of this session. So are we going to still be able to do right by this if we hold it?
We just hold it and then ask the comptroller and they'll get it to us. We meet every week, remember. We're the committee that meets every week.
Well, but we don't have that long until we're out of session. So is this going to be?
So this doesn't stop anything because the next thing will be 3rd reading and final passage. So
okay,
they can give us that information. We will not kill the bill or anything like that. Okay. It will just get us information that should be in there anyway.
Well, then I would personally, I would like to have the information complete before we go anywhere else.
Okay. I agree. And did you have other questions?
No, that was
or
it.
concerns?
That
Okay.
was it.
That That was very good. We can tell you do financial things because you zero in on that. I have, and I want to thank you again. I'm not going to keep you much longer because you did this at the last minute, but I want to piggyback off of what Alderwoman Green talked about, the tax abatement. I'm looking at, and so we're skipping across our calendar because we have you here. I'm looking at the board bills that are for engrossment. And we're doing enrollment first, but board bills that are for engrossment. Board bill number 116 with Kara Spencer has 95%. Board bill number 125 with Joseph Vollmer has 95% tax abatement. Board bill for Shameen Clark Hubbard has 95%. Board bill number 130 with Kara Spencer has 95%. Board bill 131 with Dan Gunther only has 50%. We come back to Board Bill 137, 10-year abatement at 95%. And then I'm looking at I'm looking at Board Bill 142, which is this project on South Kings Highway. And it doesn't say what the percentage, but when I read it online, it said it was 95%. And I was going to ask you about that one. Why would a project on South Kings Highway be getting a 95%? And is that correct? And why is the one with Vollmer on 4914 Daggett getting 95%?
Well, all I can say is the financial analysts look at all the numbers for the project and determine what seems logical for tax abatement, and that's what came out. Each of those projects, the one on South Kings Highway is a huge project in an area that has not seen any new development for a long, long time. And that would all contribute. It's an industrial area. It's an area, in fact, it's using property that has not paid taxes forever, probably because it used to be a field for a Catholic church, or part of it was owned by the federal government. It was some kind of
armory or next. Right. I used to live South St. Louis. It's down below where the bowling alley or something.
Right,
Is that where it is?
Exactly. So that all contributes to what that wound up coming through with the tax analysis. The one on Daggett is an old industrial building. Again, it's part of what was the stove manufacturing company. And again, it's a building that has been virtually unused. And so putting it back in use and getting it on paying taxes was an important factor. So whatever the financial analyst determined, it made sense to give it tax abatement.
So I thought our whole thing about tax abatement was to try to have incentives. So the fourth ward needs incentives. I will never question that. Okay, that's what they needed. And so what has happened over the years, and why I fought so hard against Snooks, is because the old 20th ward didn't need incentives. I built stuff without it and clearly could. But I did know my neighbors all around me needed incentives. When we give all this incentive to people that really don't need it, of course the developers run where they can make the most money. So you really do take away from the places that need it the most, which now are impacting. So when the school board decides to close our schools, they're closing it in the North St. Louis. 7 of the 10 schools they're getting ready to close are in North St. Louis. I had the audacity to go back and pull the original Liddell lawsuit that she did. And it really was about the kids in North St. Louis, because at that time we didn't have a lot of integration. And so we are punishing the very kids that desegregation and all this stuff is supposed to help. And we're also punishing neighborhoods that have been historically discriminated against. So if we can always find a way to go around these, quote, rules that we set, we're doing a disservice to ourselves and not putting the money where it's supposed to be, for me, Mr. Rousat. You know, and I've been around long enough to remember when we spent money on the Chase Park Hotel, which we said it was, and then we gave the money back and paid it back because we used it for one thing and then went back to being a hotel when it was supposed to be something else. So now hearing them once again get ready to close schools, because I was around here when they closed them back in 2005. I think that the school board members have a very good defense when we have the audacity to say we don't want their schools, for them to close our schools, when we're doing all this tax abatement. And so at what point do we ever find that these people have to be able to bear the brunt themselves? You know, say, okay, or maybe this project doesn't get done. We do everything around it until, if we do everything around it, doesn't it ever build up any value where they can do the project? Will we always have to say well, this is the project that still needs incentives? So we'll never get to the neighborhoods that don't get hardly anything done. I understand that.
You know, we have on the HUD's agenda next week 3 large project areas in North St. Louis. So we're attempting, and those each have 25-year tax abatement. I don't remember what it is specifically. One in Alderman Evans' ward. And so, I mean, we're really trying to get development in the North St. Louis, and we're offering the maximum incentive we can in order to achieve that. The other thing I want to mention is the developers are not exclusive to St. Louis. They have the opportunity to develop in other cities or other parts of the region. And if you look in St. Louis County, you'll find they're giving tax abatements much more generously than we are for many of the developers out in St. Louis County. So the developers are saying, oh, we can't get an incentive in the city, we'll just develop in St. Louis County. And they are doing that. So it's not just that, what we're doing in the city, but we have to keep the development going in the city of St. Louis. I mean, that I think is one of our charges, and the incentive is something that seems to be needed.
Well, okay, but like for instance, I know about when they built over in the 23rd ward over by the hospital, all that housing over there, okay? But in North St. Louis, you only do low to moderate income. So in my ward, we didn't need that. You all never prop up the black middle class that needs some incentives. You can't even look at them until, I guess, we have to be begging. So my neighborhood goes, well, what happened to our hardware store that was supposed to be next to the Snooks? Okay, I've been waiting now. I've been back 7 years. We've been working on that for 7 years. It's not going anyplace, but we're building a soccer stadium where nobody can go to. But a hardware store up at Union, right on Union and Natural Bridge, would be full the minute that you opened it, okay? And it wouldn't just be for the 1st ward. It would be for the 4th ward, the 18th ward, the 22nd ward, the 27th ward, the 26th ward. But we don't get those things done. But we can get down here and talk about the development. I lived in South St. Louis for 8 years. I lived in the Central Quarter, and I've been in North St. Louis. I have seen the very difference. And if you take all the money, if you put all the incentives mostly in the places that needed it, you would have built them up. And we cannot continue to go along with this, Mr. Rousset, because I cannot continue to have people coming and saying you're going to close 7 to 10 schools. That can't be. That cannot be. And the reason why we can't attract people mostly is because we don't have any development. Even the old 20th ward was very middle and upper middle class until the racist redistricting. And we were able to build stuff every year without tax abatement, maybe 10 years here and there, but not, and that was okay with me. But ultimately, you got to also do stuff. If you tell me about how they need something on South Kings Highway, they don't need it as much as we need a hardware store. When you have a whole community that doesn't have hardware, didn't have a grocery store, didn't have all of these things, and I was the only person getting them done. And Brandon Bosley tells me having to drive down from on the other side of Grand to my ward to go to the grocery store. We didn't get hit hard about all the restaurants that had to close down because we didn't have any. The people in my community are used to driving through the drive-through, so it was no big thing because that's all they have. So when you tell me about how they have to do South Kings Highway, it's not more important than Natural Bridge and Kings Highway, which we've been waiting for 20-something years. So I don't understand how you can get this done, but not a hardware store, which everybody needs, which we don't have.
The very first thing we have to have is a developer willing to develop. If we don't have a developer willing to develop, it doesn't make any difference how much incentive we give. It's not going to happen. So we are trying to find a developer willing to develop your hardware store, but we've not been successful. If we find one, we would give them.
So if I bring you one, so that's what you've been waiting for, because I've been waiting for you. I never understood why you all didn't. We own 70% of the land. You've taken the value out of the land all around it, because It was in the 22nd ward before I picked it up now. Kenny Jones did a blighting study back, 1993, 92 or whatever. We haven't done anything. The few people that live there, they have no value in their houses because nobody would want to buy up in there. I never understood why we couldn't have been cleaning that up and preparing that for a developer, okay? And since you told me that now, I will bring one to you, because if that's all it is, then we can find one and bring to you. That is not what I've been told before. I didn't understand. And so you could tell me, why can we buy up certain land and clear it out in 2.5 seconds, but in the very places that we should be packaging and offering stuff, we can't do it. Everybody told me we couldn't get Snooks. We got Snooks. We couldn't get Walgreens. We had to hold up the Walgreens on Grand and Gravois, but we got the Walgreens, okay? 10 years I'm gone, we don't do anything, basically. So now I'm here raising heck again, but when you're telling me you're going to give 95%, okay, give 100%. I don't care if we build a hardware, let's do what we do for the Blues. Build a hardware store and let somebody move in it. Certainly, because I'm looking for the service in the community. Do you care, Alderwoman Evans, if the city pays for it and lets the hardware store, let's do what we do for the Blues?
Yes.
Because it'll service us much more. It will be much more service to all of North St. Louis. If we can let the Blues go into our building and not pay rent and then give them more money, then we can do the same thing in North St. Louis. See, I'm not limited because I know I've been around too much to know how the hamburger's made.
Okay.
Alderwoman Green. Alderwoman Green.
Just wanted to sort of, I guess, say the converse of something that you just said a minute ago. I also think that affordable housing should not be relegated just to the north side.
Right.
You know, my community is very quickly gentrifying. We have had so many conversions from 4 families to 2 families and 2 families to 1 families that, you know, the affordable rental stock that allowed me to move into this neighborhood 15 years ago barely exists anymore. And, you know, I have a site that is amazing for an affordable housing project. I've had 2 projects get committed and then fall through. And those were projects that I recruited myself without any help from the city, without any help from SLDC. And I think we need to be more intentional too about affordable housing and how we are positioning it in areas of our city that are wealthier, do have access to transit, do you know, because it breaks my heart to see, you know, folks who work at the grocery stores around here, who work at the restaurants on South Grand, not being able to afford to live in the neighborhood anymore. And so I just want to kind of put that into the ethos, because it's a frustration of mine. And I know it's a frustration of folks who live around here too, and trying to figure out how we really create a mixed income community here that we used to have, but that is very rapidly changing.
Okay. I didn't bring you.
Alderwoman Tyus,
I want to say this, Mr. Rousset. I want to tell you, I didn't bring you here to beat you up. When I look at all of this, I've been around, so I'm not, you know, personally mad at you, but I'm personally mad at the situation. Okay, go ahead.
I'm not black and blue yet. No, I just wanted to mention that in terms of market rate housing on the north side, there's a whole area that in the West End that is an area that's a redevelopment area, and anyone that wants to develop there can get. We just renewed that. I think it's a 95% tax abatement, and we have a lot of market rate housing that's being both rehabbed and built in that whole neighborhood.
Because it touches up against the central corridor. That's why they do it.
And
that's why they do it.
Similarly, in the Academy neighborhood, we're seeing developers rehabbing houses there at market rate. So, I mean, we're happy to encourage that to happen. In Alderwoman Evans' ward, we have one we've approved, another one that is proposed, a whole area that will allow tax abatement for individuals that want to rehab their house at market rate, whatever it may be. And so we're encouraging that to happen. And there's another one up near Fairgrounds Park that we're doing right now. So this will allow individuals who own property there to rehab their own property, or would encourage developers to come in and do market rate housing. So, I mean,
But Mr. Rusak, don't we already have the ability to give homeowners in areas tax abatement? Usually it don't rise, they don't do enough work that it rises to a standard that it makes any difference. You know, when I hear from my individual homeowners, they're doing a kitchen or maybe, you know, so it doesn't really give them any tax abatement, okay?
I would agree, that's not worthwhile.
Right. So I understand we can do that for owners right now, but I don't do it because I don't want them to be fooled to think that they're really getting something they're not getting. Okay. Yeah, so I'm talking about, right. I'm talking about you all do not back up these, and everybody can tell you this, Black on this board. The first ward, not this one that we're talking about now, the 20th ward, the old 20th ward, the 21st ward, the first ward, the second ward, and the 27th ward were Black, middle class, and working in upper class neighborhoods. There has not been any backup from the city on that kind of thing for a very long time. And that's what I fought with as the 20th ward all the time. That's how I was able to get stuff, because I just pushed and fought and built a school and built a grocery store and built a bank. And I did everything possible, including holding up other projects to do it, because I knew that it would stabilize my community, which it did. So when they tore up my community 20 years ago, they put it in 5 other communities that had failed, but mine did not. Now, they've never done that to another community ever, but they did it to mine. And so all the parts of mine are failing now because they put them into parts that didn't have the backup. The thing that we had was the backup. And so nobody ever knows that there's a Black middle and upper income people that live in North St. Louis that want the same daggum things that people in other parts of the city want. And so we had the unique opportunity up in Kingsway East, Kingsway West, and Penrose to do that. And the ignorant administration, I'm talking about Francis Slade's administration, tore it up because it's just racism and ignorance. And so I was lucky that at least during some of my previous time as the 20th ward, I did have Black mayors who understood that. And it seems like as soon as they went away, you guys put no energy, and you want to keep people in North St. Louis, go to the strongest parts and help them too. Don't just say, oh, we're just going to build low to moderate income. Go, where are the people that they live there already? Why is it that you understand how to build off the central quarter? Because that's what you do. When you tell us you're doing something in North St. Louis, what you're doing is stuff is in the 18th ward because that touched the central quarter, the 26th ward because that touched the central quarter, the 19th ward, all of them touched the central quarter. I never understood when I was the 20th ward, the Roberts brothers used to call me and say, you're doing such a good job. Sherry, you're doing a good job. Now, I ran against Steve, so I didn't understand that till years later. The reason why they were saying that is because they were told that the Sears building was too far north to do development. And only when I started doing development on Natural Bridge and started putting things, then they actually said, wow, you're showing that they're wrong. But before we did that, we had no development up on Natural Bridge. We had a community full of people who owned their own properties, who had paid for it, the teachers, doctors, and lawyers, and no development. Since I've been gone and come back, we have no development. We did get the credit union, but that's it. It makes no sense. Anything you build up on Natural Bridge instantly is the place everybody goes to. In fact, it's overused because there's nothing else in other parts of the neighborhood, and they haven't built up enough to have the population that will use these things. And so people will come from other wards to go. So it's just frustrating when I hear you again say, oh, we need to do this up on the hill. We need to do this on South Kings Highway, but we can't get anybody to do development and Natural Bridge. And everybody told me that Snooks would never come to North St. Louis. And yet here they've been there for 23 years. Walgreens was never coming to North St. Louis. But here they've been there for whatever many years. So, but it's like I had to be there kicking and screaming, finding my own developers, meeting with them in secret. I met with Sandy, who was there at that now, Gordon Lyons and whoever, several of the Snooks over at Clark Properties, and asked them, why aren't you in North St. Louis? Why won't you come? We have to beg for development in North St. Louis. That is not right. That is not right. And then tell me that, oh, but these other things are so easier. Well, maybe we would have more developers if you said, no, you can't do Daggett and you can't do South Kings Highway if you're not going to do Union and Natural Bridge, because that's exactly how we got Walgreens. When Jennifer Florida was the alderperson and they were trying to build a new Walgreens, Freeman was the chair of streets and I was the vice chair, and we said, you'll never get this out of streets unless you build the Walgreens up at Kings Highway, because I've been dealing with you too long. And I got my letter the next day. So maybe it's because we do not put the backbone and the fight to get things built in our community. Because you think you already accept that we can't do it. And I've never accepted that, and I don't believe it.
Well, we don't accept it either. I mean, we're happy to deal with developers in the North community, and I think we're going further and further and trying to provide incentives for that to happen.
Well, one thing I will say, the fox has been guarding the hen house, because Joe Rody being the head of development and doing more TIFs than everybody because I can say that I've been around as long as him, more TIFs than everybody else in the city put together. That's the fox guarding the hen house. So of course he's not going to be trying to shut TIFs down, because he's doing them. He's not going to be trying to shut tax abatement down, and having the people who've been the mayors live in the central corridor and guarding all of that. Of course they're going to look out for their own communities at the expense of other ones. And if South St. Louis does not look out, they're going to have a big problem, because when you do not fix the cancer in your right hand, it goes to your left hand, okay? And so I just think that's ridiculous to be given Board Bill 125, 95%, and Board Bill 142. No disrespect against either one of the alder people, but 95%. And attached to these board bills, is there some explanation of why that is?
Well, the analysis is attached to each bill, yes.
Right. And your thoughts, what you're telling me is because it is, they weren't used and they're not on the tax roll.
Well, that's certainly one element of doing the analysis, yes.
And what else? Well, just give me a little, what would make this project at 4914 Daggett get 95% tax abatement?
Well, it's a matter of how much the project brings to the city, and that's all part of the analysis. It's a very dense use of the property. It's if the property was, if we're going to build a one-story building there, obviously it would not have as much bringing to the city as building. I think that one's 3 or 4 stories. Those are all part of the things that are looked at by the financial analyst.
Okay, so then if we wanted to bring a hardware store right there up to Natural Bridge,
that would score very well.
And so again, because I was here when we voted not to give the Blues got a lease, and then behind our backs it got changed where they didn't have to pay, but that's not what we originally voted on. Okay, so I was here for the original vote. That is not what we okayed, and it got changed. So since we got these sports teams that can go into buildings and don't pay anything, and then we send money from the state and every place else, why don't it? Because we need sports team. Okay, all right, Alderwoman. Then why wouldn't we put a high premium on bringing something like a hardware store to North St. Louis, so that we don't have sections of town that we say don't have anything? That's, to me, that is an embarrassment to me, that we have a whole section of town. And I lived 8 years in South St. Louis, 2 in the Central Quarter, and I've been over in North St. Louis 30 years. And ever since I've been here, I've been fighting to have the same things that I had when I lived in South St. Louis. So I don't understand why we wouldn't say they don't have a hardware store. That's a high premium. That's something that if we have to build a store and the people come in here, we can do just what we did. Why isn't our need for a hardware store as important as having another sports team, is I guess my question.
Well, I'm not sure I can answer that, but I will say that we've been trying to get a hardware store in North St. Louis for a long time. As you probably know, LCRA owns a large parcel at I-70 in Goodfellow, and getting a hardware store on that property has been a high priority for that for years and years and years. We've had 2 or 3 that have looked at it. One came pretty close, but we've never found a developer that is willing to go at that site or so far at the site that you're interested in next to Schnucks. But we're not stopping. We're still trying.
But when we originally had the plan, because I still have it, it was a 30 acres, and we actually used to have a grocery store. And originally we had Ventures, who went out of business. This is how far back it goes. And then we had Kmart's, okay? And then with all the machinations, but the other portion was going to be, once we built the grocery store and the secondary store, it was for a hardware store also to be there. And so at that point, so we're really going to date ourselves. We were talking to Central Hardware, okay? So that's how far it back. And it just galls me that in all that time, we haven't put anything there. So that's enough. We have to move on. I did want to, for you to answer questions. Alderwoman Grass, you have a question?
I do. What does a financial analysis look like? And where can I find one?
Well, the summary of it is attached to each of those board bills that.
Okay. But it doesn't show, it doesn't show all of the breakdowns of everything that we have talked about here today. I want to know what the schools are going to get. I want to know.
I don't have one in front of me, but it does say what the school's going to get. That's part of the summary. But again, I didn't bring one of those because I didn't realize we were going to discuss that one because that was not part of.
Right. That's not what I asked him. But if she could bring one up, okay. Do you have a hard copy or are you looking online?
I'm looking online.
Okay, let's just say we go to whichever the first one we come up with.
I'm looking at 136 right now.
Okay.
In which project is that?
That's Alderwoman Evans' project.
Mhm.
Oh, well, that would not have because that doesn't. That is a general redevelopment area without a specific developer.
So I'm going to go
that one
look
doesn't
at
have
Boardville. If I look at Board Bill 125, which is on Daggett,
Yes.
would that have a financial analysis attached?
Yes, it would. And if you want to discuss that, I'll see if one of our financial analysts are here and he can come in and talk much more detailed about it than I could.
And Board Bill 136 does have a specific developer. I have a lead developer on that.
If that's the one on Daggett.
No.
She's talking about
you're talking about your project. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but we didn't have specifics for that whole area that a financial analyst could do an analysis of that project. So instead, it's getting, essentially the maximum tax abatement.
Okay. I had my hand up, but
wait. Okay, wait. Let Alderman Grass finish, and then you can.
Okay.
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 Alderman Grass.
Bill 125. I had some electronic issues here. I just want to. Yeah. And shame on me for not knowing.
No, you're new. This is how you learn.
So is it, I see, okay, so Board Bill 125 fiscal note, is that what we're talking about as the financial analysis?
No, there is another page that it should have like a graph on it.
A graph. I see, got a sustainability impact statement, blighting report, blighting in, I don't, and I'm going through it pretty quick, so I might be missing
Which board bill are you on? Which one? I'm gonna go to it. Which board bill do you have on?
125.
Okay, here, I'm gonna bring it up.
I'm looking on the tab now on the. I just want to know dollars. I want to know what we're giving up, what we're getting.
Matt, are you there? I think you're gonna have to come in.
Okay, so when you look at starting at page, okay, so they have an attachment.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so if you look at, let's just start from the
Looking at the financial.
development plan itself. Okay, so first 9 pages are the ordinance itself.
You're better.
Right.
Okay, then it tells you the legal description. So that's attachment A is the legal description.
Aren't these attached?
Attachment
Got
B,
it.
which is the next page, is the blighting study and development plan.
Correct. Okay, I'm looking
Okay.
at that.
So the next page is a outline of the blighting and redevelopment plan. So it tells you on each outline the existing, like A is existing condition and finding of blight, why they blighted it. B is proposed development and regulations.
Yep.
C, okay, so you're going through that execution of project. E, F, tax abatement, compliance with affirmative action, so all of that. So then it tells you what the exhibits. Legal, project area plan, proposed acquisition map. E is discrimination and equal opportunity, and F is blighting, and G, you got that? Sustainability report.
I'm looking at something different then, because my F is
No.
tax abatement.
No, so you were at the blighting study and redevelopment plan that it was an outline. Right up under that should say
Okay.
exhibits.
Okay.
Okay, right under that is exhibits.
Hang on.
I am.
Okay, so there's B. I had to go back.
That's all right. You can have your staff member, you can have your secretary print them out for you if you prefer to have them printed.
Yeah, I should.
Because if
C
we
is
were in,
proposed-
right, go ahead.
C is proposed schedule. D is
Yes.
execution of project.
Right. So
Okay.
going down right after that page, it says exhibits.
No, mine doesn't.
Yeah, because we're all on the same thing. Then after all of that, it says E is cooperation with the city. F is tax abatement. G is
Yeah.
compliance with affirmative action.
Okay.
H is modification. Okay. Then the next page should say exhibits.
I'm on it.
Okay, so that goes through legal description, project area plans, proposed land use, acquisition map. You see all of that?
I do.
Okay, so the next page is existing. So now this is where you starting to get into the meat and potatoes. So the next page is existing condition and finding of blight. So it tells what it looks like and why we're blighting it.
Okay, and so down at the bottom, it says pay. Okay, so right now I'm looking at page 30 of 34. What page are you on?
I'm on page 1 because you skipped ahead. So after the exhibit, I was taking them one at a time. Now, what they will look like as you go to different things, it would say, if you looking at the numbering, it would be 14 of 34, existing condition and finding of blight.
Blighting report for the 4914 Daggett Avenue redevelopment project.
Right, okay. So,
Okay, I'm there.
so you go through this, you're just going slowly. Proposed development and regulations, proposed land use of area, proposed employment for the area. Number 5, circulation.
Yeah.
Okay, building and site regulations, urban design.
Yeah, I'm not on this. I don't know why this is happening, but I'm not seeing what you see. Oh,
Okay.
Now I am. I see on the very last page, I see maybe what I'm looking for. Yep, I do. Okay.
So what page are you on?
According to which, I'm looking on the computer that's telling me I'm on 34 of 34. It's
Okay,
actually
yes. So that's the very last page.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to see.
Okay.
Is that the financial analysis, Dale?
But that's actually the part of the financial analysis. I thought you were asking him for something else.
No, I wanted to see the financial analysis. I want to know what this does to what goes to the schools. I want to know I don't want to know what it does for the developer. I want to know,
No,
I want to know the money.
if you look at that financial analysis on the left side, there's something called fiscal benefit.
On the left side? Yep, gotcha. Okay.
And if you go down about 6 or 8 lines, you'll see fiscal advantage to school district.
I gotcha.
So over a 10-year period, it's the 73,000.
And that's over the neighborhood.
Okay.
And that's over the base, which is 85,000.
And then the 20-year.
And then there's the 20-year analysis.
So
Okay.
explain to her, explain it to why that's 73. And that's with 95% tax abatement?
Let me ask Matt Bauer, who does these, to chime in, and he's sitting right here. I'll turn it over to
Great.
him for a moment.
Sure. So.
Hi, Matt. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay.
So that part of that is the remainder of the fact that it's a 95% tax abatement, but it also takes into account that there's going to be employees here and they're going to be paying earnings tax. So given that this is an office project, that's probably the two main sources of where the tax benefit comes from in the 10-year. Obviously in the 20-year, the tax abatement goes away. So now we're collecting full property taxes on it.
So that's the difference of that 95% and then paying. So even though they say, well, this project wouldn't have happened, and so that's why the school's not missing any money, that's the difference in what the money the school's missing.
That's pretty big.
I mean, it's not what they're missing, that's what they're gaining. Otherwise, I mean, without that's
how you see it. You
Yeah,
say
no,
potato, I say
Exactly.
potato.
I get that. We just look at it differently. And I think that's pretty big money. But you've answered my question and I can't ask for more than that. I know more than I did 10 minutes ago. So
and Alderman Grass, if we want to, I'm happy to go through it in more detail at another time too, just in general, so that you.
I would love to do that. I think
Okay.
I'm actually going to be down at City Hall next week
Okay.
for another meeting with BPS.
Okay, I will. I'll reach out to you via email and we can schedule something either in person if that works, or either Zoom, and we can kind of walk through how we look at projects and what the scorecard means, given that you don't see it on a regular basis and are fairly new to the process.
Oh, 6 months. I'm brand new. And Gwen and I did this during COVID, so we haven't had these interactions, not even with our fellow alder people.
Sure.
So this is about as weird as you can possibly get.
Yeah.
So if we could sit down, and Gwen, if you want to join me, and then maybe we could go do lunch. That would be awesome.
Okay.
Education's wonderful.
I'll reach out to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Okay, I'm sorry, I need to put my video back on. Does anyone else have any questions? If not, we're gonna move on through our agenda.
Yes, my hand is
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Alderwoman Evans.
I wanted Mr. Ruth said to reiterate, it was something he said about rehab, own property, where people could rehab their own property in the ward. And I just wanted him to go over that again? Because what was it that he was saying that was in the ward where people
Well,
could rehab,
yeah,
total
what I
rehab,
was,
not just a kitchen or a bathroom? I'm talking about total rehab of property, of a building.
yes, in the large redevelopment areas that you are creating, any property owner in there can apply for the real estate tax abatement that's available. And as you point out, it's not worth just if you're putting in a new bathroom, but it's worthwhile if they're doing a substantial redevelopment of the property, gut rehab, whatever. They can come to us and we'll be happy to implement the tax abatement on a project like that. What would happen is they would apply. We would look over the plans, make sure they're consistent with what your plan for the whole area is. And if that's the case, then we would give them a letter saying, you know, they're fine, go ahead and do it. And when it's all done, they would submit to us an affidavit saying what they have done. And we would send that off to the assessor, and that would implement the tax abatement on that particular address.
Okay, I have a question, another question. Now, if someone has recently done total rehab, is it too late for them to apply for the real estate abatement for that?
It is, yes. We need to
Okay.
get them when they're just getting started.
Oh, okay. All righty, I'm learning.
Good.
Okay, thank you much.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Rousset. I really do appreciate it. Okay,
no problem.
And
Thank you.
this helps a lot. We have a new committee, so this helps them to bring things into focus. And it's hard to be on the rules committee and make sure everything is all right when you don't understand the full process. So I appreciate the lesson. I'll send you a lunch over one day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Good.
Thank you
Okay, have a good day.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay, we're gonna go back to, we still have 1, 2, 3. Did we lose Alderman Todd? Alderman
he's still
McCarl's still
there.
here.
Yeah, I'm
So,
just immediately snatched.
now the men is like, why are they going on like that? But okay, in case you guys don't know, the next vice president of the United States is going to be female. Okay, so we're going to get back on our agenda now. We're in enrollment, and Alderwoman Grass is going to be the person who's going to do this today. So we can. So we're going. Okay, we're going to item number 1, Board Bill number 136, as introduced by Alderwoman Gwendolyn Evans. It's an ordinance improving a blighting study and redevelopment plan for the North Newstead Avenue, Lexington Avenue, Whittier Street, Kennerly Avenue redevelopment. And so we heard about this last time. So what we're doing now in enrollment, we've already looked for any errors when we did engrossment. And now enrollment is that just a final pass through at the board bill to make sure there's no errors on it. And we actually print them on a green sheet, and then we go back out Friday and we third read and finally pass them. And then I will have signed it, the clerk signs it, the president of the board, alderman signs it, and the mayor signs it. So that's where we are now. So I don't know, I know we've been gone for a while, but I did actually go back over these already. I didn't find any errors. So Alderman Vaccaro, do you have any concerns with Board Bill 136?
I don't. It looks good to me.
Okay. Alderman Todd, any problems with Board Bill 136?
I know I don't have any problem with Board Bill 136. Looks good to me.
Okay. Okay, Alderwoman Evans, any problem with Board Bill 136 besides the sponsor herself? Okay, and Alderman Grass, any problems with Board Bill 136?
I don't have any problems with the board bill or with the alderwoman from the floor.
Oh, you two are too thick as thieves. We're gonna break this up right away. All right, then Alderman Grass, I'd entertain a motion that we enroll and pass out Board Bill 136 with a due pass recommendation to the full board. And you can write it down. I'll go back over it again if you need me to.
I think I'm okay. I make the motion
Okay.
to enroll and pass out Board Bill 136 with a due pass recommendation to the full Board of Aldermen.
Or
Second is gonna be Evan.
okay.
I second.
Carl, we're gonna let the new people do it.
No, that's
I
fine.
appreciate it, but they gotta learn. And then Alderman Todd, you're our previous role.
Yes, our previous role.
Have we taken a vote yet for previous role? I'm thinking.
No.
Yes, we did.
We did on the minutes, you're right.
We did on the minutes.
You're right.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second and a call for previous role that Board Bill 136 be enrolled and passed out with a due pass recommendation. Any objections to previous role? Hearing none, Board Bill 136 is passed, as enrolled and passed out with a due pass recommendation to the full board. We now have Board Bill 159. It's an ordinance introduced by Alderman Joseph Rhodey, dissolving special allocation funds for 4494 Lindell redevelopment area and terminating the designation of certain portions of the city of St. Louis, Missouri, relating to such as a redevelopment area, repealing ordinance 70157, and authorizing certain action relating thereto. Alderman Vaccaro, any problems with Board Bill 159?
No, actually, yeah, none of them actually that I saw.
Okay, I still have to ask you. Alderman Todd, any problems with Board Bill 159?
No, I don't see any problem with Board Bill 159. Thank you.
Okay, do you have new glasses?
I know, I'm just reading. These are reading glasses. I don't wear glasses.
They look nice. They look nice. Okay, Alderman.
Thank you.
Okay, Alderwoman Evans, any problems with Board Bill 159?
No problems.
Alderman Grass, any problems with Board Bill 159?
No problems.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion that Board Bill 159 be enrolled and passed out with a due pass recommendation to the full board.
I'll make the motion to enroll and pass out Board Bill 159 with a due pass recommendation to the full board.
I second.
Previous role.
We have a motion and a second that Board Bill 159 be enrolled and passed out with a due pass recommendation to the full board. We have a call for previous role. Any objections to previous role? Hearing none, Board Bill 159 is passed out, enrolled and passed out with a due pass recommendation to the full board. We're going to hold over 164 to ask the comptroller to explain to us why there are blanks on that board bill. We'll have it back. I'll call them as soon as we finish, and we should have an answer so that when we come back next week, we'll be able to get this done. The next thing we have is Board Bill 165, introduced by Alderman Joseph Rhodey, Alderwoman Heather Navarro, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 66420, ordinance number 64928, ordinance number 65724, ordinance number 65910, and ordinance number 65443, dissolving the special allocation funds for Maryland Plaza North, a convention headquarters hotel, 114-1151 South 7th Street, 1312 Washington, and MLK Plaza area redevelopment project, and terminating the designation of a portion of the city of St. Louis as a redevelopment area and authorizing certain actions relating thereto. So this is good. This is something that we did when I was a new alderperson, and now we're actually coming to the end of it. Alderman Vaccaro,
No problem.
do you have any problems? Okay. Alderman Todd, any problems with 165?
No, I don't have any problems, Madam Chair, with 165.
Okay. Alderwoman Evans, any problems with 165?
No problems, Madam Chair.
Alderman Graff, any problems
No
with
problem.
165?
No problems.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion that Board Bill 165 be enrolled and passed out with a due pass recommendation to the full board.
I'll make the motion to enroll Board Bill 165 with a due pass and pass. I'm going to start over. I make the motion to enroll and pass out Board Bill 165 with a due pass recommendation to the full Board of Aldermen.
I
Alderman-
second. I'm sorry. Ooh,
Okay, you cannot do two things. All right, we have A motion and a second.
Previous roll.
Alderman Todd? Thank you.
Previous-
We have a motion and a second that Board Bill 165 be enrolled and passed out with a due pass recommendation to the full board. We have a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 165 is passed out with a due pass recommendation and is enrolled. Now we're going to do engrossment. The first board bill we have is Board Bill number 76, introduced by Alderman Joseph Bolmer. The board bill seeks to approve Chapter 99 redevelopment plan and blighting study for the 2732 59th Street redevelopment area. This bill will allow a 5-year tax abatement at 50% construction of 2 attached homes, townhomes will occur. Excuse me. If you haven't had a chance, you can go on to the website and to our Google Docs and look at Board Bill 76. This is our time we look for any errors or anything that we think is not correct on the board bill, so we can change it. Alderman Vaccaro,
I'm sorry, I have no problem with
do you have
that.
any problems or concerns with Board Bill 76?
No, I don't. I really
Okay, Alderman Todd,
I
any
don't have
problems
any
or
problem
concerns?
with, no, I don't have any problem with Board Bill 76, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Alderwoman Evans, any problems with Board Bill 76?
No, I have no problems, Madam Chair.
Okay, and Alderman Grass, any problems with Board Bill 76?
No problems.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion that the only thing we're going to do is engross Board Bill 76. Okay,
Okay. I'll make a motion to engross Board Bill 76.
I second.
there you go.
Previous roll.
We have a motion to and a second to engross Board Bill 76. We have a call for previous roll. Any objections to Board Bill to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 76 is engrossed. Okay, the next board bill we have is Board Bill 79, introduced by Alderman Jesse Todd. The board bill seeks a Chapter 99 redevelopment plan and blighting study for 528 North Newstead Avenue redevelopment area. This board bill will allow for 5 years of tax abatement based on 50% of the assessed value of the incremental improvement, construction thereof, and it stops there. So Alderman Todd, what are you building there at 528 North Newstead?
Building a house. First of all, it was a vacant lot, no taxes, and I was able to get this developer to come in and build a house. So the school will benefit, the city will benefit, and then he hires some workers. So we're gonna get some, even get a little earnings tax. So it's a house. Beautiful house.
And you're only doing 5 years and 50%. Thank you very much. Okay, that way we do not take all our money away from our schools. I appreciate that.
Oh, I love schools. As you know, I'm a retired school teacher. However, I do love tax abatements and tips and stuff too. So
No, you can't like them both. Okay. You cannot have a wife and a girlfriend. Okay.
Well, let me say my constituents like them, so I have to look out for my constituents.
Okay, that's different than liking them. Okay.
I don't like them, but my constituents like them, so I look out for my constituents. So.
And you're not doing 90%. That's what my thing is. I wanted to compliment you. That's my thing. You didn't need it at that area, so I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, but I will be asking for 90% sometime. So this time, remember, I didn't ask for 90%.
Well, it's your ward, it's some portion of your ward that needs 90% and some portion of your ward doesn't need any. So you have a very diverse ward. So I'll remember that, okay?
I sure do. And believe me, I know it better than anybody has ever known it because I grew up there. I was a teacher. I worked as a community organizer, a youth worker, a neighborhood developer, and I lived in the ward, and I went to school in the ward, and so I know the ward. So believe me, there are certain parts north and south of Delmar that does still need tax abatements.
I know. Take the compliment. I said, just gave you a compliment. I'm gonna move on, okay?
Well, okay,
Oh,
thank you. So I
it
want
was
to
a compliment.
develop both sides of the ward. South of
Alderwoman,
Delmar, north of Delmar.
okay. I'm not gonna give you any more compliments. Alderwoman
Thank
Evans,
you.
do you have any problems
All
with
right,
Board
thank
Bill 79?
No problems with the board bill, only with the alderman, okay?
Okay, I hear you. Okay, and Alderman Grass, do you have any problems with Board Bill 79?
I do not, but I agree with Alderwoman Evans.
Oh my goodness. Oh my. Wait a minute. Okay. Wait a minute. That's my roommate. So I'm going to have to say, I can talk about him, but you guys can't. Okay.
Okay,
I'm
fine.
taking up for
I
you.
don't know
Okay.
about all these rules. I have a hard time keeping track.
Jesse knew it's in love.
Okay. Since we have no one that has any problems with Board Bill 79, I'd entertain a motion that we pass out that we engross Board Bill 79.
I'll make a motion to engross Board Bill 79.
And I'll second.
Previous roll.
We have a motion and a second to engross Board Bill 79. We have a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 79 is engrossed. Okay, the next board bill we have is Board Bill 108, introduced by Alderman John Collins Muhammad. This board bill seeks to approve a Chapter 99 redevelopment and plan and blighting study for 5337 Von Pool Street redevelopment area. This board bill will allow a 10-year tax abatement at 90%. Do you know what the Von Pool redevelopment area is? Dwayne, you ever heard of that? Or maybe that's just what they're calling it. I don't know. A street called Von Pool. Do you know anything about that? Or Jesse, have you ever heard of Von Pool?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't have a clear picture of what that exact address is because I have been over there a lot in my lifetime.
Okay, so there's a street called. That's not a typo. That's a street actually called P.
It is. I'm looking at the map right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
It is a street.
VONPH?
UL?
Yes.
Yes,
It's
Okay.
Cross Street
I just wanted
Adelaide.
to- okay. I just wanted to make sure that we had the right address on it. Okay. Okay. Alderman Vaccaro, do you have any problems with Board Bill 108?
No problem.
Alderman Todd, any problems with Board Bill 108?
No, I don't have any problems, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Alderwoman Evans, any problems with Board Bill 108?
No problems, Madam Chair.
Okay, and Alderman Grass, any problems with Board Bill 108?
No problems.
Okay, here no problems. I'd entertain a motion to engross Board Bill 108.
I'll make a motion to engross Board Bill 108.
Second.
Previous roll.
We have a motion and a second to engross Board Bill 108. We have a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 108 is engrossed. The next item is Board Bill 109, introduced by Alderman Joseph Vollmer. This board bill seeks to approve a Chapter 99 redevelopment plan and blighting study for 5520 Daggett Avenue redevelopment area. This board bill will allow a 5-year tax abatement at 50%. Alderman Vaccaro, any problems with Board Bill 109?
No, not at all.
Alderman Todd, any problems with Board Bill 109?
No, I don't have any problems at all, ma'am. Thank you.
Alderwoman Evans, any problems with Board Bill 109?
No problems, Madam Chair.
Okay. And Alderman Grass, any problems with Board Bill 109?
No problems.
Okay, hearing no problems, I'll entertain a motion that we engross Board Bill 109.
I'll make a motion to engross Board Bill 109.
And I'll second.
Previous roll.
We have a motion and a second and a call for previous roll that Board Bill 109 be engrossed. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 109 is engrossed. Okay, the next board bill we have is Board Bill 110, introduced by Alderman Joseph Vollmer. This board bill seeks to approve a Chapter 99 redevelopment plan and blighting study for 5509 Magnolia Avenue redevelopment area. The board bill will allow a 5-year tax abatement at 50%. Alderman Vaccaro, any problems with Board Bill 110?
No, not at all.
Alderman Todd, any problems with Board Bill 110?
No, I don't have any problems. Thank you.
Alderwoman Evans, any problems with Board Bill 110?
No problems.
Alderman Grass, any problems with Board Bill 110?
No problems.
Hearing no concerns or problems, I'll entertain a motion that Board Bill 110 be engrossed.
I'll make a motion to engross Board Bill 110.
Second.
Previous roll.
Have a motion and a second that that Board Bill 110 be engrossed. We have a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 110 is engrossed. Next Board Bill is 116, introduced by Alderwoman Kara Spencer. The Board Bill seeks to approve a Chapter 99 redevelopment plan and blighting study for 3712 and 3716 Nebraska Avenue, as well as 3717, 19, 28, 29, and 30 Oregon Avenue. And this is the Oregon Avenue, Nebraska redevelopment area. This bill will allow a 10-year tax abatement at 95%. It's going to be construction of 4 single-family homes, it looks like. Alderman Vaccaro, any problems with Board Bill 116?
No, not at all.
Alderman Todd, any problems with Board Bill 116?
It looks good to me. Thank you.
Okay, Alderwoman Evans, any problems with Board Bill 116?
No problems, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Alderman Grass, any problems with Board Bill 116?
No problems. But can I
Okay,
ask a question?
sure.
This is in a general sense, though. It's not relative really to Board Bill 116.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask it now?
Sure.
Okay, so when we're doing all these tax abatements and TIFs and whatever, can a rule or a law be changed to not include the school district in that financial analysis so that it gets the entirety of what it should have? I just don't know. I'm curious.
Any rule of law can be done. It may depend on if it can be done at the state level or the local level. So that's a good question. We can't do it in this committee because otherwise I'd strip everything out and give the school boards all of their money. But so a lot of the tax abatement laws and stuff come from the state. So you'll see something referred to revised Missouri statutes.
Right.
So the state has already set it up. So that would be a meeting with your state rep, maybe with the board, and also a question for Dale, could we do something where we gave the schools all of their money? Which is,
Yes,
I think they've done that before.
Yeah, I guess that's really my question, rather than giving them less, leave it the same. So, and I know in some instances they're not getting anything right now, but given that the state of the schools are what they are, maybe it's time to do that. I don't know.
And so I think that they can do that, but that would come out of somebody's pocket. That's always been my argument. How can we give away somebody else's money? Because it's always easier to give away somebody else's money. And their argument has always been that, well, if it wasn't for this tax abatement, it wouldn't get built. But you can see what a big difference in, just by you asking those questions, what it looks like when the tax abatement goes away. And just think of those 10 other years, those 20 years that they have been getting that money, okay? And multiply that by many, many projects. That's a lot of money.
It is. So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
thank
that
you.
is the kind of thing. If you want what I'm saying to you, we can bring Dale back to answer questions for us, okay? Our committee, we can ask that question because we're having to pass this stuff out. So if that's something you want, we can ask him to just come back, not on anything particular, but just to have a conversation with us.
I'm gonna definitely, absolutely. If you want to, today you want to bring him back?
No, I'm saying at another meeting, and we can do it when we don't even have to do it on the day that we're hearing all these bills. We could just have another day where we could have a conversation with him about these things.
I would love to do that.
Okay, all right, that's something we'll do.
Okay, thank
Any
you.
other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Hearing no further problems or questions regarding where we at Board Bill 125, I'd entertain a motion that we pass out Board Bill 125. I'm sorry, that we engross Board Bill 125.
I'll make a motion that we engross Board Bill 125.
I second.
Previous roll.
We have a motion, a second to engross Board Bill 125. We have a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 125 is engrossed. The next Board Bill is 128, introduced by Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard. The Board Bill seeks to approve a Chapter 99 redevelopment plan and blighting study for 55266 Maple Avenue redevelopment area. This Board Bill will allow up to 10-year tax abatement based on 95% of the assessed value of the incremental improvements. And let's see here. It cuts off what else it says there. It says this area includes, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go and read this. I'm going to still, you can hear me, but I'm going to try to read the rest of 128 that is cut off on my, okay, engrossment.
What was the address on that again?
It's 5266
Maple.
Maple.
Okay,
right.
thank you.
It says this area includes an unoccupied residential property which will be renovated and sold. Okay. So all right, Alderman Bacall, do you have any problems with Board Bill 128?
No.
Alderman Todd?
No, it looks good to me.
Alderwoman Evans?
No problem.
Alderman Grass?
No problem.
Okay, here no problems. I entertain a motion to engross Board Bill 128.
I'll make a motion to engross Board Bill 128.
And I second.
Previous roll.
We have a motion and a second, and call for previous roll that Board Bill 128 be engrossed. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 128 is engrossed. Board Bill 130, introduced by Alderwoman Kara Spencer. This Board Bill seeks to approve a Chapter 99 redevelopment plan and blighting study for 3620 Texas Avenue redevelopment area. This project is the construction of 12 apartments. This Board Bill will allow a 10-year tax abatement at 95%. Any problems with Board Bill 130, Alderman Vaccaro?
No, I don't.
Alderman Todd?
No, I don't see any problem.
Alderwoman Evans?
No problems.
Alderman Grass?
No problems.
Hearing no problems, I'd entertain a motion that we engross Board Bill 130.
I'll make a motion that we engross Board Bill 130.
And I'll second.
Previous roll.
We have a motion and a second that Board Bill 130 be engrossed. We have a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 130 is engrossed. Next Board Bill is 131, introduced by Alderman Dan Gunther. This Board Bill seeks to approve a Chapter 99 redevelopment plan and blighting study for the 3170 through 3172 Oregon Avenue redevelopment area. This project is the renovation of an unoccupied 4-family building. This bill will allow for a 5-year tax abatement at 50%, which is much more reasonable. Alderman Vaccaro, you have any problems with Board Bill 131?
No, I have a question though. Not
Sure.
a problem. So we're engrossing, but from earlier, are we still going to hold these and get more information before we enroll all these? I understand.
If you want them, we can bring them back over.
I understand we have to.
No.
enroll them, but
That was just on that
If you-
one roadie bill.
Wait a minute, wait.
Sorry.
So if you want somebody to come over and answer questions, we're gonna hold them anyway. You tell me and I'll bring them over here to answer questions.
no, I was just following up from the earlier.
No, we're only holding that one because it had blanks in it.
Okay.
Everything else just moved on.
I'm just curious because I know we're only engrossing, so Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
but that one, usually, that one didn't have everything filled in. So we want to have a report from the comptroller why it's blank.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, and I have no
Okay.
I have no problem with any of these. I've looked them over, but you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman Todd, any problems with Board Bill 131?
No, I don't see any problem with 131, Madam Chair.
Alderwoman Evans,
No problems, Madam Chair.
Alderman Graff?
No problems.
Okay, hearing no problems, I'd entertain a motion that Board Bill 131 be engrossed.
I'll make a motion that we engross Board Bill 131.
I second.
Previous roll.
We have a motion and a second that Board Bill 131 be engrossed. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 131 is engrossed. The next board bill we have is 137, introduced by Alderwoman Kara Spencer. The board bill seeks to approve a Chapter 99 redevelopment plan and blighting study for 4021 Iowa Avenue redevelopment area. The project is the renovation of an unoccupied school building for 25 apartments. This board bill will allow a 10-year tax abatement at 95%. Alderman Vaccaro?
No problem.
Alderman Todd?
No problem.
Alderwoman Evans?
No problem.
Alderman Graff?
No problem.
Okay, hearing no concerns or problems, I'd entertain a motion that Board Bill 137 be engrossed.
I'll make a motion to engross Board Bill 137.
I second.
Previous roll.
We have a motion and a second that Board Bill 137 be engrossed. We have a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 137 is engrossed. Board Bill 142, introduced by Alderwoman Carol Howard. The board bill seeks to approve a Chapter 99 redevelopment plan and blighting study for the 4320-4330, 4350, and 4350R South Kings Highway Boulevard redevelopment area. This board bill will allow up to 20 years of tax abatement provided as follows. Okay, and then it cuts off, so I gotta pull that one up. $15 years of tax abatement based on 95% of the assessed value of the incremental improvements, followed by 5 years of tax abatement based on 90% of the assessed value of the incremental improvements. This area includes unoccupied properties, which will be redeveloped for mixed use. Okay, this is a lot of incentives here. Alderman Vaccaro, any problems with Board Bill 142?
Not with the board bill.
Okay. Alderman Todd, any problems with Board Bill 142?
Looks good to me.
Alderwoman Evans?
No problem.
Alderman Graff?
No problem.
Okay. With no problems or concern, I'd entertain a motion that we that we engross Board Bill 142.
I'll make a motion that we engross Board Bill 142.
And I'll second.
Previous roll.
We have a motion and a second that we engross Board Bill 142. We have a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 142 is engrossed. Next board bill is Board Bill 147, introduced by Alderman Jesse Todd. The proposed board bill will permanently close, barricade, or otherwise impede the flow of traffic on Vernon Avenue by blocking said traffic flow at the west curb line of North Kings Highway Boulevard at the intersection of Vernon Avenue and North Kings Highway Boulevard. Alderman Vaccaro, do you have any problems with Board Bill 147?
No.
Alderman Todd?
No, Madam Chair.
Alderwoman Evans?
No problem.
Alderman Graff?
No problem.
Hearing no problems or concern, board, I'd entertain a motion that we engross Board Bill 147.
I'll make a motion that we engross Board Bill 147.
Second,
Previous roll.
We have a motion, a second, that we engross Board Bill 147. We have a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 147 is engrossed. The next board bill is Board Bill 149, introduced by Alderman Brett Ryan. The proposed bill will extend the prohibition on commercial vehicles in Ordinance 71111, which prohibits such traffic along West Park Avenue from the eastern boundary of Hampton Avenue to the eastern boundary of Hughes Place to include commercial vehicles along Hughes Place, and then it cuts off. Okay, here. That was Board Bill 149. Okay. Between the northern boundary of Dale Avenue and the northern boundary of West Park Avenue. Alderman Vaccaro, any problems with Board Bill 149?
No.
Alderman Todd?
No, I don't have any problem, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Alderwoman Evans?
no problem.
Alderman Grass?
No problems.
Hearing no problems or concern, I'd entertain a motion that we engross Board Bill 149.
I make a motion to engross Board Bill 149.
Okay, Alderwoman Grass.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second and a call for previous roll. Any objections to engross Board Bill 149? Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 149 is engrossed.
Thank you.
Okay. The next board bill we have is 156, introduced by Alderman Dan Gunther, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service to conditionally vacate above surface and subsurface rights for vehicles, equestrians, and pedestrian travel in Louisa, Louisa, from second eastwardly 167.50 feet to terminus, and the remaining 115 foot of the 15 foot, this must be along the railroad tracks or something, or along a shore. Let's see what else it says here. That's 156. Wide north-south alley in City Block 769 is bounded by St. George, DeKalb, vacated Louisa. And second, the petitioner is Electric Properties LLC. The vacated property will be used to consolidate property for industrial expansion. Okay, Alderman Vaccaro, any problems with Board Bill 156?
No.
Alderman Todd? Alderwoman Evans?
No problems.
Alderman Grass?
No problems.
Okay, hearing no problems, I entertain a motion that we engross Board Bill 156.
I'll make a motion that we engross Board Bill 156.
I second.
We have a motion and a second that Board Bill 156 be engrossed. We have a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 156 is engrossed. Finally, we have Board Bill 166 as amended by Alderman Jeffrey Boyd, President Lewis Reed, Alderwoman Tamika Hubbard, Alderwoman Christine Engross, Alderwoman Carol Howard, Alderwoman Marlene Davis, Alderman John Collins Muhammad, Alderman Joseph Vaccaro, and Alderwoman Pam Boyd. It's an ordinance pertaining to the excise laws of the City of St. Louis, amending Ordinance 68536, presently codified in Chapter 14.06 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis, having as their subject matter drink license, licensing, employee-related licensing requirements, and employee criminal background checks, containing a severability, emergency clause, and penalty clause. I meant to invite the excise commissioner to answer some questions about this for my own clarification, but I failed to, so I will invite him back to our next meeting. I didn't find any errors in it. I just want to know more about this board bill. I think it takes away, it gives people the right that have had a previous felonies. It used to be you couldn't get a license, and they give some people a second chance is what it does. But I do have a couple of questions for him. So I am going to invite him to our next meeting next Wednesday, but I don't wish to hold it up. And I didn't find anything, any glaring omissions or blanks to hold it up. So Alderman Bacall, do you have any problems with Board Bill 166?
No, but if I could say, because I was at the meeting.
Okay.
And with the excise commissioner as well as Snooks said exactly what you were saying. The problem is they can't hire anybody that has a conviction, like even at Snooks, that could sell, that would have anything to do with selling liquor. So what it does is exactly what you said. It makes it so that depending on the felony, but the owner of the company still has the right to not give you a job, but they can now hire you with this board bill. I'm sure if you did something very horrible, maybe they wouldn't, but they still have the right to not. But this gives them a lot more freedom to hire people that have had minor, convictions. Maybe it was a marijuana conviction or something. But you're right on what you're saying, and certainly you could bring him in, but that isn't, that's what this thing does.
Okay. I have a question on, we're giving him some leeway of when he enforces things and when he doesn't. And I always have kind of questions with that because that always leaves the ability to not be fair. So
you're right in that too, because that was brought up in the meeting, because he has the right to deny, and it's still in there. And that was brought up in the meeting, and and certainly probably you might want to bring him in to better explain it. But there was a lot of discussion. At the end of it, we all said, okay, that's fine, we understand. But you're right on that too. He also has the say to not grant something if that's what he chooses.
And I understand giving people that right, because you do have to do that with bureaucrats, but as much as possible, I like definable, objective instead of subjective goals, because the more things get subjective, the more they have possibility, not with him, but in the future of being abused. The further you get away from making laws, different people have different interpretations. So that's why I have a question. I actually had somebody in the 50/50 sidewalk bring up to me about the people not having to fix their sidewalk when a tree is tore up their sidewalk. And they was explaining it to me. And then I said, you need to go look and see who wrote that. That was my legislation I wrote back a long time ago. And they were explaining it to me exactly wrong. Okay. So that's why I'm just always kind of careful.
I'm not objecting to having him come in. I was just trying to clarify. You're right on both cases.
Right.
But that's what it does. And that was also brought up in the meeting, why he has the authority. He said that he's, I think, never exercised it, or maybe has exercised it once, but that was brought up and basically just agreed, okay, that's fine.
Okay. And what and my concern is administrations will tend to pressure people for certain things. So that's why I'll ask him myself. I do have a question. Alderman Todd, do you have any questions or concerns?
No, I do not have any questions or concerns, Madam Chair.
Alderwoman Evans?
No questions.
Alderman Grass?
No questions.
Okay, hearing no questions or concerns, I'd entertain a motion for Board Bill 166 to be engrossed.
I'll make a motion to engross Board Bill 166.
I second.
Previous roll.
We have a motion and a second for Board Bill 166 be engrossed. For call for previous roll. Any objections for previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 166 is engrossed. We have a couple of resolutions in our committee, and I talked to Alderman McCall yesterday. One of them is about a proposed rule change about what Proposition D did. And I told him when he got ready to, I would hear it. When I made the statement on the floor about that we were going to have it the next week, I didn't realize that we were going down for Christmas. I thought we were going down for Christmas a week later, but I will hear it. I'm not holding it up. I wanted him to know that. And then I've been waiting for Alderwoman Howard to be back because we have a resolution in her committee. In our committee that's hers. And so I'm going to send both of them a little note saying to let me know when you want it heard. And then either we'll put it on a short date or we'll do a separate extra meeting so that we can, because usually resolutions bring people in and it's a lot longer. So I don't like to put it on the same date that we're doing all these board bills. So I'll see what their reply is, and then I'll get back to the committee, and you'll know in time what we're getting ready to do with the two resolutions that are in our committee. Anybody have any more committee discussions or anything?
No, other than just to say that I'm fine with whenever we have to, especially on the resolution, we have till, what the heck is it, April to,
Okay.
So whatever is convenient for you and the committee, I would like to hear it, but
Okay,
just
we
whenever,
will.
just whatever's good.
I want to just, right, okay, and we will, and I'm going to have a little discussion with you, as I said, about other ways we can do it. We did get a reply back from the superintendent about our resolution we did on the floor about closing the schools. Mm-hmm. I am going to send you all a reply that I've given back to him today. I'm going to finish it and send it back to him. I probably kind of took a strong stance because I didn't really like their reply about what are your plans. I think that they work for us. And so when you have an open session, people are going to come and disagree with you. That's what the session of letting people have public input. So I think that they were a little perturbed that we had the gall to say don't close our schools. But I want to hear what other, instead of him saying, what are my plans? Because I have them and I'm listing them. I also want to hear what other plans do you have? Are we always just going to come and say close the schools? Are we paying you that much money so that all you can have is a plan that says to close the schools? That to me, I can do that. I can hire somebody for $10 to say close the schools. What other plans do you have to educate our children that does not mean that we have to close all our schools? And I want to know what their plans are for these vacant buildings that we have, what their plans are for keeping those buildings safe, what their plans are for, since you think we don't have the right to say anything, what about all those schools you've already closed in our community that are depressing our property values, giving our children less access to neighborhood schools? Whatever happened to the neighborhood school things? Because when I moved to St. Louis, all I heard was people crying and screaming about having to do DSEG because they didn't want to do busing and they wanted to have neighborhood schools. Also, I got out the lawsuit about Minnie Liddell and what she brought it about, and I want to bring that up too to say that again, it seems like we're punishing people. The kids don't have any say for any of this, and just to say, what I heard is that we only care about Sumner. I care about Sumner and all the schools. I cannot believe. I don't want any schools in South St. Louis to close either. I want to know what we can do so that our children don't have to travel far away, because I don't think the DSEG program out to the county has been a roaring success. And it took a lot of us students away and kept their schools open. And now everybody looks at the members of the Board of Aldermen like we've done something wrong. They call us, what are you going to do about those schools? They're shocked when they find out that the city doesn't own those buildings, that they belong to the St. Louis Public Schools, which in my community, they have not done a good job of maintaining the schools at all. And so if you got one that's going to be closed in your community, you got to get out and beat the bushes trying to get somebody in there before the people start getting in there and tearing it up. Yeah. So right. I just want to say that I know they're supposed to meet on the 12th, and I'm hoping that they will reconsider some, if not all, the schools. And I think we all understand the hard decisions that they're making, but we all know schools are the heart of our communities and they're to educate our children. And I don't think that everything for government should be made on a black and white. Government has a greater purpose than just running it like a business, okay? So that's what I have to say about that. Alderman Grass?
I just want to say thanks for today. Education is always important, even when it's for somebody as old as I am. And I just appreciate the time that was taken, and thank you.
I appreciate it. Okay, anybody else?
How old are you? I'm
Be quiet. You do not have to answer that.
I know
I'm
that
older than
that's
you.
similar age, but I'm feeling a little old myself. Although I am growing my hair, I'm going to join
Your
around.
hair's longer than mine. There's something wrong with that.
Well, wait a minute. We're going back to the 60s. Remember? The men's hair was longer than the women.
You look like one of the monkeys. Remember the monkeys?
I'm going to grow my hair as long as Dwayne's hair. And join
You're
around the
handsome
monkeys.
like Davy, Alderman. Okay, we're going to have to get off.
Oh.
We're still being taped. If anybody has anything, otherwise, they're going to think we lost it at the end of the session. Anything else? If not,
Thank you.
I move that we, what's the word I want to say? That we adjourn?
I'll make a motion. Yeah.
I will make a motion
Okay.
to adjourn, even though I'm not.
All in favor of adjourn, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you. I still have the best committee. I really enjoy you all. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.